Before time began, there was the cube. We know not where it comes from, only that it holds the power to create worlds and fill them with life.
There will be some spoilers for Transformers Rise of the Beast, I'll try to be as vague as I can, but it's just mainly me comparing this between the Michael Bay stuff. So I recently watched Transformers Rise of the Beast, and overall, it was a good film. I liked it. I thought it was very good. Stephen Cable Jr. is a very good director. I love Creed 2. And I thought Transformers Rise of the Beast was a fine Transformers film. But at the end of the day, I couldn't help but notice two things. One, it's basically the plot of every Transformers film ever. It's, get the key to go get the thing, and then do the thing, and then, key portals, Omnicron, Cybertron. They all kind of just blend together. They all have a very similar plot structure. And the second thing I noticed was just how kind of visually bland it felt. Like, Stephen Cable Jr. is a good director, but I couldn't help but feel the corporate digitalization of this film. It doesn't look very great. The Transformers themselves don't feel very big. In fact, this is probably the worst the Transformers have ever looked, because for some odd reason, the lens choice makes the Transformers look absolutely tiny in this film. And to be honest, I don't think anybody other than Michael Bay has managed to capture the scale and largeness of the Transformers. When you watch the Michael Bay films, they feel massive, they look massive. In things like Bumblebee and in Transformers Rise of the Beast, they look kind of small. They're there and I'm just like, okay, they don't look as impressive as they used to be. Also, the color grading in the film is just very grey and looks very MCU-like, and there's nothing really stylish about the lighting. It's all pretty flat and homogeneous, and it looks kind of like a Marvel film. Look, love or hate the Michael Bay Transformers films, you cannot deny how amazing they look. They look stunning. You can disagree about the designs for all you want, because, the designs are quite busy, and ideally the best Optimus Prime design is the one in Bumblebee, the one in the Cybertron flashbacks. That's what Optimus Prime looks like. That's what the design should have been for Rise of the Beast. I don't like his design in Rise of the Beast. The top half is okay, but the bottom half is just really unbalanced. My guy doesn't have any quads. Does Optimus Prime squat? And look, I guess on paper, Transformers Rise of the Beast is a better Transformers film, but I don't know. Maybe this is my nostalgia playing in, but I think Michael Bay's first Transformers film is still the best Transformers film. I love this movie, even though there are so many, problems with it. The plot and story is very silly and doesn't entirely make sense. Yes, it does take 50 minutes for the Autobots to fully arrive on screen, but I can't help but love this movie. I grew up watching this movie, okay? I'm not denying that nostalgia does not play a factor into my love for the first Michael Bay Transformers film, and even his whole trilogy. I love Revenge of the Fallen. Bear in mind, I haven't seen that film since I was 11 years old. But I remember loving that, even though if I probably go back to it today, I will go, yeah, it's pretty crap. And Dark of the Moon is quite long, but I also love it because the third act is insanely good. And Anthony Ramos' character Noah is definitely a much better protagonist than Sam Witwicky. But I can't help but kind of love Sam Witwicky, even though as a character, he makes no sense. He's a freak. He's an absolute weirdo. I kind of don't get why Sam Witwicky is the main protagonist of the first Transformers film, because, he's just there. Bumblebee is his car, and now because of that, he's now entwined in the plot, but also his great-grandfather Archibald Witwicky found Megatron and the coordinates for the AllSpark, even though the coordinates for the AllSpark are imprinted on his glasses, but then also in the film Sector 7, finds the AllSpark in the 1920s and then they move it. So does the code on the glasses act as a tracking chip, or I don't know how that works. Again, the first Transformers film is a messy movie. Plot-wise, it doesn't make entirely much sense, and it has the weird Michael Bay crude, prude sense of humor. I'm sorry, why does everybody in this film talk like a frat boy? They all talk like jocks in high school in America, and it's what is going on here? I'm gonna circle this back to Sam Witwicky, but Sam Witwicky is a nothing character. He's a loser, dweeby weirdo. Aside from the fact that he wants to get a car because he wants to impress Michaela, what does he actually contribute to the plot aside from his grandfather's backstory? He's just such a weirdo random kid. He's a loser. And to be honest, I think the reason why I kind of like Sam Witwicky is Shia LaBeouf. Look, I know Shia LaBeouf has been cancelled. I know there are issues with Shia LaBeouf. But I can't help but deny the early 2000s was Shia LaBeouf's era. And kid me, love Shia LaBeouf because, I watched Even Stevens. I loved Even Stevens. He's Mark Williams in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I loved him in that film. And in Sam Witwicky, his performance is erratic, and he gives it his all, even though the character is pretty crap. And just, I can't help but love Shia LaBeouf in this movie. Some of the lines he has in this film are very funny.
Dream gone. Kaput.
But also, again, he's such a dork. Like, when Bumblebee steals himself and Sam starts chasing him on the bike, and he starts calling the police, and he's just like, send all units, you know, we got an emergency, someone's stealing my car, send everybody. It's like, what is going on? Why is he acting like such a widow? Why would the police send all their units to come after his car? Also, what are his interests? He doesn't have anything apart from the fact that he wants to get a car, he wants money, and he wants Michaela. He doesn't actually have any interest. There's nothing interesting about Sam Witwicky yet. I love him, but I think that's mainly because of Shia LaBeouf's performance. And then I guess obviously by the third act he becomes a hero, like him with the AllSpark, and then, you know, he's like running around away from Megatron, and then he ends up killing Megatron with the AllSpark, which again, is kind of a plot hole, because Optimus, for some reason, is all just like,
Sam, put the cube in my chest, sacrifice me, because I am Optimus Prime.
But then if you think about it, Optimus Prime being all self-sacrificial doesn't make any sense, because if the cube is destroyed, Megatron is still alive, and he will most likely still decimate Earth, so what? And look, the first 40 minutes of the first Transformers film is literally just a bunch of military propaganda, spliced in with a bunch of action, spliced in with a bunch of, you know, government conspiracy stuff, mixed in with a bunch of Sam Witwicky being an absolute weirdo and goofball. Like, I don't get this movie. Like, I don't know when they were sitting down making this, they're just like, yeah, this is a movie for kids that we're going to fill with a bunch of sexual references. And then don't even get me started on John Turturro's character. You know, the Sector 7 Agent Simmons. Because when he shows up, the weird, crude, lewd, prude, pervy nature of the film, like, increases because he starts perving on Megan Fox, who's, like, playing a 17-year-old character in this film. Even though, like, you know, he's like a 40-year-old man. What is the... why? What is up with this? Also, these films are, like, racist. And I don't understand why and how this was allowed. Like, this is a kid's movie. Kids are going to be watching this. They'll most likely be repeating some of this stuff. What the... who in the studio when watching this was just like, yeah, this is cool. We can just, like, have this in the film. But then also, a lot of the dialogue in this film is kind of funny. Like, a lot of Shia LaBeouf's line deliveries are pure gold.
Just ask yourself, what would Jesus do?
Also, Sam's parents, they're kind of annoying, but they're kind of funny. I don't know. I like seeing them, but I don't like seeing them as well because they are annoying a lot of the time. Also, Uncle Bobby B is a legend. I love the car dealership scene. Uncle Bobby B, baby. Uncle Bobby B. Sam. It's so good. Also, the guy that eats the whole plate of donuts is great. So funny. That scene is comedy gold. And look, whilst I may have crapped on the writing and the characters of this film, that does not take away the fact that I love this movie because it's just really fun and entertaining to watch. This is the definition of a turn off your brain movie because it's big, it's dumb, it's loud, but it's so much fun to watch. Yes, it does take like an hour for the Autobots to fully arrive on the scene, but when they do, it's incredible. Optimus Prime's first transformation scene is just mwah. I mean, the scale, the score, the sound design. Oh my god. I love Michael Bay. This movie, so good. And from a visual standpoint, this film is gorgeous. Yes, it's the orange and teal aesthetic that we've seen in Hollywood films over and over again, but also, it's a nice look. It looks really nice. Granted, people do look very orange in this film, the way this film renders the skin tones. Very orange. But I kind of get it. Like, it gives everybody a kind of tan look to them. Everyone's all sweaty. And that is like a really interesting visual aesthetic. Like, I get it now. You don't get this aesthetic nowadays with digital film. People don't really sweat in films. But in the 2000s, you look at this type of film and this aesthetic. It looks grimy and grungy and gritty and lived in. It's shot on 35mm film. The contrast levels are nice. The blacks are deep. It looks so aesthetically pleasing. And not to harken on and bash the look of the Rise of the Beasts, but the digital cinematography shows in Rise of the Beast because it looks very grey, very low contrast, the shadows aren't very punchy, and the blacks aren't very black. It has the standard typical Hollywood digital filmmaking look to it, and it doesn't have much style. Not to become a film bro on you and talk about the whole film versus digital debate, because you can get digital films to look very nice and look very filmic. Just look at Roger Deakins' work. Roger Deakins is the master of digital cinematography. Also, Greg Fraser. You look at Rogue One, you look at Dune, you look at The Batman, they look great. Though, with The Batman and Dune, he did use this technique where he scanned in the digital format into 35mm film and then scanned it back into digital again. So, he again uses a film-like look. Really, it's all about just understanding the principles of lighting and contrast and shadows and all that kind of stuff. But, yeah, you look at the Michael Bay Transformers stuff, they look stunning. Specifically, the visual effects work, because the CGI in this film is insane, and just, it looks so good. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Michael Bay captures a lot of the explosions, a lot of the carnage, a lot of the mayhem in camera. And because they have all that photography to work with, all they really have to do is just CGI in the Transformers and then composite them into the frame. Because going back to Rise of the Beast, you look at the big one-take action sequence where it's the Transformers fighting, and it's very much meant to emulate the look of Avengers Endgame, and that one-take action fight scene, it doesn't feel very epic, if that makes sense, because it's all done on the computer. It's a digital camera moving through a digital environment, moving around digital objects fighting. It doesn't look very aesthetic and tangible and visceral. But because Michael Bay is really filming his actors running away from real explosions and real carnage and real mayhem, it feels tangible and visceral, and the Transformers feel and look real. I mean, the climax of this film is just insane. I love it so much. When Sam is running away from Megatron and then Optimus Prime arrives and then starts fighting Megatron, when he transforms from the truck into Optimus Prime, the mask goes down, the sword comes out. It's so good. And speaking of Optimus Prime and his sword, when he fights Bone Crusher, like stabs him in the head, it's so good. I mean, that kid said it best. Cool, Mom! The fight between Optimus Prime and Megatron is awesome, because even though Optimus Prime is getting his ass handed to him, it just looks cool. Also, when Optimus Prime is just like,
"The end of this day, one shall stand, one shall fall."
It's so good. Though the thing that I do find funny is when Optimus is always like,
"Sam, put the cube in my chest."
it's like, but why? Because if Optimus Prime dies, Megatron is still alive, and Megatron will still, like, destroy the Earth and humanity. What a dumb plan, Optimus. Like, Sam putting the cube in Megatron's chest was probably the smartest thing he did throughout the entire film. But the way this film ends is just cinematic perfection. You know, Optimus Prime's monologue.
"My name is Optimus Prime, and I'm calling all Autobots seeking refuge among the stars. We are here. We are waiting."
Look, at the end of the day, is this film amazing? Yes and no. Like, as a pure spectacle film, it is amazing. As a piece of writing, not so much, but it's very enjoyable. I mean, on paper, is Transformers: The Rise of the Beast the better film? Yeah, probably. But then also, people love Bumblebee, but I didn't really like Bumblebee. In fact, Bumblebee to me felt like it was a Michael Bay written Transformers film done by a different director who kind of PG-ified it down, made it more babyish, because the crude and adult humor is still there, but it's just been kidified, and so kids won't really understand it. But because of that, it feels like a, you know, kiddie-ified version of the Michael Bay films. Really, the only thing about Bumblebee I enjoyed was Haley Steinfeld and her dynamic with Bumblebee. Other than that, I thought it was a pretty bad film. I didn't really like it that much. I thought it was quite boring. It just lacked the grit and the epicness and the tangibility of the Michael Bay film. And whilst I think Rise of the Beast is good, it is also like a weird prequel thing, but it kind of lines up, but it also doesn't, because in Rise of the Beast, Optimus Prime doesn't like humans, and in the 2007 film, Optimus Prime really likes the humans and respects them. And then also in Rise of the Beast, the Transformers have been here since the 90s, and they've been here like searching for stuff because they want to get away back to Cybertron and fix Cybertron. But then also in the Michael Bay films, they come down to Earth in like the 2000s because of the AllSpark and Megatron, the location of it. They need to find it because of the glasses. So that doesn't really line up. But then they also do reference the Michael Bay Transformers films in a way, and then also they also use the same music, because speaking of the music, Steve Jablonsky's score is incredible. To wrap things up, Transformers 2007 is a childhood favourite of mine. I kind of love Michael Bay's Transformers trilogy, but a lot of that is due to nostalgia. Like, again, if I go back to things like Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon, they probably won't hold up as much, because if I think this film is lewd and crude and racist and kind of unsuitable for kids, then I know for a fact that it doubles, in fact, probably increases by tenfold in Revenge of the Fallen, because, yeah, there's like the twins in that film that are like racial stereotypes and all that. Just, what was Michael Bay doing? Who allowed him to make these kids movies? But yeah, to wrap things up, Michael Bay's Transformers 2007 is still my favorite Transformers film. I love this film so much. Yes, it is tonally all over the place, and the first hour is barely like revolving around Transformers. It's kind of like military propaganda meets this weird high school drama meets this weird just conspiracy film. But then when the Autobots fully arrive on scene and the Transformers become more of the forefront, the action is just epic and the story is so cool, and just Sam Witwicky is a weirdo character, but I love to watch him, and just this movie's my childhood, man. Like, yeah, is Transformers Rise of the Beast a better film? Yeah, I'm not denying that, probably it is, but I enjoy Michael Bay's Transformers film more because it just, you can feel the soul of the artist conundrum that is Michael Bay. Well, it's funny though, because they don't make movies like this anymore. Like, even Michael Bay doesn't make movies like this anymore. Like, Ambulance is a horrible film. I found that film to be incredibly dull and boring, and just, it wasn't Michael Bay. You look at his Transformers films, there's a soul behind them, there's an energy behind this, there's a mad genius energy behind them. This man is behind the camera and he has a vision, he has a story to tell. And then you look at his most current films and they don't feel like that. But also, you look at the Transformers films recently and yeah, you could tell even Michael Bay got burnt out by Transformers 5, because even though I didn't watch that, I've seen clips from it, it's not great. But I also think the Transformers franchise has kind of just run out of steam in a way, because they keep trying to hold on to the Michael Bay continuity. They kind of just should have let it go. They should have let Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast be their own thing. Like, I still don't understand why they keep adhering to the fact that Bumblebee has to talk through a radio. Like, just give him a voice. They did in Bumblebee for like 2 seconds and then he lost it, and it's like, why? Let him have his voice back. But anyways, those are just my thoughts on Michael Bay's Transformers 2007. I kind of love it, but what do you guys think? Do you guys like it? Do you hate it? I mean, I have no qualms if you hate it, because I can understand why. Because even though it's a childhood favorite of mine, it's very nostalgic. On paper, it's not a very well written film and story, so I get why you wouldn't like it. Anyways, what did you guys think? What's your favorite Transformers film? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe on social media, all that good stuff. Until we meet again, I'll see you guys next time.